Is International Women's Day worth celebrating? How best can International Women's Day benefit underprivileged women around the world? Why are women still underrepresented in political institutions across the globe? And of what significance is the United Nations 2030 Women Empowerment Agenda? What time is it? It is question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Today is International Women's Day, initially known as National Women's Day and adopted at the Second International Conference of Working Women in Copenhagen in 1910. The United Nations started celebrating the day on 8 March 1975, with each subsequent year dedicated towards focusing on the status of women around the globe. Part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development adopted in September 2015 states that women and girls must enjoy equal access to quality education, economic resources, and political participation, as well as equal opportunities with men and boys for employment, leadership, and decision-making at all levels. This year's festivities are marked under the theme Planet 50/50 by 2030. A reminder that we are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-110-4210, 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle @QuestionTime24. My guest, Katie Handel. She's the program manager at the Gender Unit Center for Human Rights at the University of Pretoria, and we're expecting to be joined by Nonhlanhla Skhosana from Sonke Gender Justice. She's the spokesperson there. Katie, welcome to Question Time.
Thank you very much.
Well, there's no fanfare as we normally see it with August 9.
Indeed. So August 9th is the day that South Africa celebrates our own Women's Day, but the 8th of March is typically known as the day to celebrate International Women's Day. So it's really a global event more than a national one.
And I'm of the view that even emphasis and focus seems to be very subtle, low-key today than it would be on August 9th.
It is, and I think you are right in that. Perhaps it has something to do with the public holiday that we have and that we celebrate on August the 9th. But across the world there are lots of tweets and lots of press releases that are celebrating and acknowledging Women's Day that is happening today at the international level.
But why should we bother?
I think we've made significant gains in achieving more gender equality than there has been in previous years and decades and centuries. And it's also important to focus the spotlight onto some of the challenges that still persist and some of the barriers that still remain for women in achieving proper gender parity.
But I mean, I don't know how much work you do, and perhaps is it mainly focused on research?
Yes, so we do research and advocacy at the Center for Human Rights.
And advocacy as well?
Yes.
Then you are part of the people who are failing underprivileged women?
Yes, potentially. There's a lot of work to be done. And at the African Union level and across the continent, we've seen lots of high-level political commitments to gender equality. But unfortunately, there seems to be a lag in what those commitments say and then achieving implementation at the grassroots level.
And obviously, if the women struggle, right, or the women issues, the challenges that women are facing in South Africa are not so different from the women that are faced by women in Uganda, in Ethiopia, and other countries.
That's very true. I think the challenges across the continent are often quite similar. And in fact, there is a continental convention known as the Maputo Protocol, which strings together all of the elements that women across the continent face. So that convention contains rights in relation to sexual and reproductive health, women's access to property, inheritance rights, and a range of other rights that across the continent women face and are in similar situations with regards to accessing those rights.
Well, with the existence of people like you, yet women are still victims of inequality, victims of hunger, victims of suppression.
Yeah, so one of the themes that I've picked up on today at the global level is that this change really needs to be across all sectors and in all fields. And I think a lot of the time we focus our energies, at least, on the legal situation. But in addition to that, I think there's an important role for business to play, for the economy to play, for political parties, national assemblies, for continental organizations. It really needs to be an effort by everyone across the board.
And how are we faring? Let's talk about South Africa.
South Africa is not faring too badly. The real superstar on the continent is interestingly Rwanda. And they have a legislative quota to make sure that there is gender equality in their parliament. And they've achieved a 64% representation of women in 2014. That's the statistic. In South Africa, we sit at about 40%, which is similar to Senegal and to the Seychelles. And then other countries in Africa are kind of around the 30% mark and below.
And what would be ideal?
50-50 by 2030. That's the catchphrase that people are going on to. So we know that women make up 52% of the population globally, and there's no reason why women shouldn't be represented in parliaments at that same ratio of 50%.
Why are they not?
Several reasons. I think that attitudes and beliefs and unconscious biases operate against women, and women also face significant challenges with regards to the family setting. Oftentimes women marry much younger than men. They are responsible for household and childcare responsibilities that can hold them back from really participating and operating on a level playing field with their male counterparts.
Have you checked as to how many women do we have in parliament, and or perhaps which political parties are doing better than the others?
So in South Africa, we don't have a legislated quota system. The ideal of gender equality is on a voluntary basis, and political parties are all encouraged to try and achieve a 50-50 ratio. The ANC has actually, I think, traditionally done very well in trying to promote the participation of women in the party. And we've seen that coming through to national levels, which is very promising. And I think that other political parties similarly have some strong female leaders. But an important question is not just to look at the numbers, but also to look at where those women are being represented and whether they are taking on leadership positions or whether they're just making up the numbers at more junior positions in the party.
Okay. Courage Mangwiro, you are calling us from around.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we have to change our mindsets as human beings, Even women themselves, they don't believe in themselves, especially in high political positions where they have to lead and show expertise. But we've seen that they've done very well, in the past, and we should change our perspective and trust in women because we know that they can, you see.
Okay.
A lot of African countries have, had leaders who have worked in high-profile, positions. The likes of the former Vice President of South Africa, who was a woman. And, we should give them a chance. And really, I know they will do well. So
Courage, you got cut there. And I wanted to ask you, how is ZANU-PF doing when it comes to women representation? But we'll talk about that after the break. This is Question Time. Don't go away.
Whether you're an investment banker, an inspiring photographer, a loving parent, a taxi driver delivering precious cargo, a teacher, or an architect, we all need to plan for our future with safe, secure investments that bring financial freedom and peace of mind. Visit rsaretailbonds.gov.za. No fees and no commissions. RSA Retail Savings Bonds, the smart way to save.
Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counselor or psychologist where you're able to speak about how you're feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space.
For all your health tips, join Dr. Silo Mudawuni every Saturday from 9 till 10.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. We welcome you back to the second segment of our program. We're talking the International Women's Day today. But Francois, let me welcome you to Question Time.
I'm Paul. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for the call.
Good. Still enjoying the program, man.
Thank you very much, Francois.
Yes, Paul. Man, when you speak about equality,
yes,
that's an issue. I wonder whether the world has actually, thought this thing over about equality. Firstly, if you go back in time,
yes,
the Creator created a man first, okay, and He created a woman as well, but differently.
Yes.
We know about that. That's what the Bible says in Genesis. Now, we push women forward. Every second person speaks about empowering a woman. This is what women can do. Men has messed up, yes. But will women ever be, in a position to fix where men have actually messed up? Now, this is a one thing, one problem. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and it knows no gender.
Yes.
That is my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me, initially I'd introduced Kathy Handel. She's the program manager at the Gender Unit Center for Human Rights at the university there. And of course now we welcome the Sonke Gender Justice spokesperson, Usis Nonhlanhla Skosana. Let me welcome you. You heard what Francois said. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't know whether people failing to deal with the corruption of women suppression.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and afternoon to the viewers. I like what Francois said, the statement that he quoted from the Bible. I would like to just a bit talk on that, because in the very same Bible, if you read the very same book that he quoted, Genesis 1:22, it says, God created them both, female and male, and he blessed them, and he said they must have dominion. So he gave them equal power on planet Earth. So issue that, people think maybe God has created men first and given the power to men, I don't think it's real or it's true.
Are you not standing the risk of polarizing other people in the discussion when you confine your arguments to the Bible? What about those who do not subscribe to the Bible? What about those who do not subscribe to the theory of man having been created by God? Are they not then
Yeah, they might be excluded from the conversation, but you know, at Sonke Gender Justice, we've got a program that deals with religious sectors. So, and we know that the religious sector is one of the structures of social structural drivers, you know, that influences the community so much. So we don't need to shy away from those kind of conversation. We need to engage, even if they are from different, you know, backgrounds, but each sector needs to be addressed. But also coming back to your question in terms of the corruption and power, yes, I agree that, you know, corruption has an implication in terms of how we relate to one another, or that power that is being abused, it does, you know, affect the way we relate to each other as women and as men and women. So we need to understand that even if you have power in any other position, it is nice to have power and share the power, you know, and realize the other person that they got a certain kind of power that they could as well share with you.
I've had accusations that at Sonke Gender Justice you seem to your point of departure seems to look at men in most cases as perpetrators of you know, the challenges that women face.
No, we don't look at men as perpetrators, but we also look at men as people who could be able to change the situation of women in South Africa, the way they experience violence. Sonke, when it started, we have the a campaign that is called One Man Can. That One Man Can campaign is based on the research that was done here in Gauteng, that, you know, there were men that were involved in the study, and it showed that, you know, it was 25% of men who agreed to be perpetrators of sexual violence. The 75% said, no, we're not. And Sonke was saying to men, what are you doing about it? What is happening with the 75%? Are you keeping quiet, looking at the situation in your community? Are you allowing sexual violence against women and children to happen in your name? So Sonke started this program to say, if one man in the community can be able to take a stand and say, sexual violence will never happen in my name, it will not happen in my presence, and we know that that one man can be able to change the community that he lives in, whether it's your home, your street, or your family, or wherever where the space that the man is. So we don't really look at men as perpetrators, but we are not undermining the fact that yes, men are perpetrators of sexual violence against women and children. The numbers are showing us that.
Okay. Kongo in KZN.
Hi, Silo.
Hello?
Hi, Silo, how are you? Can you hear me?
Mpo is the name.
Oh, sorry, Mpo.
Yes.
Mpo Tail.
Yes.
Sorry. Mpo, I just want to pose a question there to the ladies in studio.
Yes.
As an African person, I'd like to pose a question from my perspective as an African.
Yes.
You see, culturally and religiously or biblically, women are not equal with men.
Yes.
You see, from an African culture perspective or point of view, women are not equals with men. And from a religious, from an African religion point of view, I happen to be in an African religious organization, Ushembe, religious, which is purely African.
Yes.
Women are not equals with men. And I don't know if I can say legally, because I know we don't have an African law, but in terms of the customary law, which is what I could say is closest to African law,
yes.
In customary law, women are not equals with men. So maybe if the ladies can answer me there, out of these three categories, culture and religious and law, in which culture or in which religion or in which law are they suggesting that women should be equals with men?
Okay. Well,
I'll listen.
All right, you listen. Let's hear it from you.
So this is a tricky issue, but I think one perspective that we are seeing pop up time and time again is this idea that actually culture can be a quite fluid and flexible thing, and that it's a living, custom is living and should change with the times. And so in fact, I think when we say that culture doesn't see women as being equal to men, maybe we need to think back and think about whether that is actually the ancient tradition and custom and what purpose it served, or in fact have we taken an idea and kind of corrupted it over time so that now we see women as not being equal to men.
Yeah, I think it's not correct to say our culture says women are not equal to men, because, you know, you think of the Queen Nandi, people who were involved, you know, in leadership position in Zulu culture, and also even in our day-to-day living as I'm a Zulu woman, you know, we know that in our families, for us to make decisions, we need to sit down as a wife and a husband and discuss about how do we, you know, take decision in this family. So for me to say culture doesn't allow that, I don't think it's a correct statement, and I think it's one of the cultural, so-called cultural norms that perpetrates, you know, gender inequality and also perpetrates gender-based violence. But as far as I know, as a Zulu person, and even an African, there are so many queens in Africa who stood up for their nations when men were at war. They took spaces where they were leaders in those nations. And then for me to say a woman is not equal to men, I really don't understand how really we can, you know, say that if women are capable of making certain decisions.
Muzulu.
Yes.
And in your tradition and culture, men are equal with women?
Men are equal with women. For people who understand isiZulu, you know, if you can also go and maybe research and have contact with Professor Untlapo, the person who is a academic in our culture and is a Zulu person, Uthanda Bantu. He would talk about these issues and he would say, how do we relate as men and women in the Zulu culture?
Hold it there. I want to take Dougie. Dougie, you are in the Val.
Yes, my friend. I'm sorry to want to put my pennies worth in here.
No, don't be sorry about it. This is your show.
But I need to.
Yes.
You know, the one guy, he quoted now from the Bible.
Yes.
And, you know, right in the beginning, when God says he created man, he said to Adam, I'm going to create you a helpmate.
Okay.
Not somebody to tell him what to do, but somebody to help him. That's number one.
Okay.
The woman went and ate the apple, and Adam blamed God for the woman that God gave him.
Yes.
Okay, then we go to the New Testament. Paul says women must make themselves subject to their husbands.
Okay.
Not to say that they're not equal, but it's to say that they must be submissive to their husbands. Not to say, okay, the husband can ill-treat the woman.
Yes.
But the woman must also know where her place is.
Where is her place?
And she should be looking after her children and taking care of the home. And that's the problem today. That's why we've got what we've got in our country, is because women are not bringing up their children.
Okay.
And teaching their children and teaching them the way of God or the Bible or whatever.
Okay.
But that is the right way.
All right, Dougie. So you're saying women must stay at home and not be at work and doing anything?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying women should be at their homes, looking after their children, bringing up their children, looking after their homes, teaching their children what is right and what is wrong. That's the woman's responsibility.
And men?
In Proverbs chapter 31, God explains what a woman's job is in the home.
Okay, Dougie. Yep. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I really would have wanted to hear where that was going. But you were saying Mkunu, or whoever it may be, I just picked Mkunu as an example, in Zulu tradition and culture is equal to Umamku.
Yes, I'm saying that. I know that a lot of people would disagree with that statement, but then I'm saying it because I know that we are equal, because I know that in families, you know, decisions when they are made, even in ancient time, a woman was involved. Like I've made that decision. I also want to maybe mention the fact that, you know, we talk of issues of gender equality. The statements that is said by our viewer now, it takes me to a point where we see the situation in our boardrooms, that, you know, only 2% of women in South Africa are in executive positions.
Okay. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but this discussion has to continue. So I really want to take you on that one. I'm not so sure if I agree with you that in Zulu tradition, men and women are equal. But that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guest and to you for watching the show. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.
The deepening hunger crisis in Malawi is threatening the survival of children.
And also it is the life-threatening part of malnutrition.
Malawi is facing its worst food crisis in 9 years.
Mugabe is the world's oldest sitting head of state, ahead of Queen Elizabeth of Britain.
The veteran leader seeks to temporarily forget his party's problems and instead focus on his legacy.
But he shows no sign of slowing down or stepping down from power after 36 years in office.
The big news is Newsroom.
We also